Yo, what's good? I'm Bleak, and I'm here to talk about Stellar Blade. So I've played around a bit over 10 hours now, and I was completely wrong about this game. Well, looking at the trailers before the demo came out, I was actually gonna skip this game. I told myself doesn't look as appealing as I thought, but thankfully they released the demo and I was fucking sold. So yeah, let's watch this.
In his own words, Stellar Blade director Hyung Tae
Oh,
Kim is a visualist, not a storyteller.
yeah,
Meaning, whatever Stellar Blade lacks in its story, he's tried to make up for in its gameplay. It was a refreshingly transparent statement, and after playing through Stellar
true.
Blade, it's also one that I find mostly accurate. This
I mean, the story's not that bad, but the characters are pretty, I guess. Like Eve, she doesn't really have life in her, if that's the correct word. And she's frustrated, like her emotion. Well, maybe it's because she's an android. I don't know. But then there's Lily. She's a bit lackluster, in my opinion. And Adam is just fucking boring. Like the guy. I hate Adam.
is a gorgeous action game with excellent
It
character
is
and
a
monster
gorgeous.
design and exciting combat that continues to evolve in fun and interesting ways.
Bro, the comment in the beginning is like. It's like Nier, basically. You have like your basic combos. You have more combos than Nier, I think. But yeah, starts slow. But once you start unlocking shit, holy fuck.
Plays across the 30-hour adventure. Its story, light RPG elements, and the actual substance of its characters, on the other hand, fall well short of the high marks set by its combat. Stellar Blade certainly isn't
Like, it's also the dialogue that Lily would use, like this character here.
high marks set
She's like a,
by its combat.
I don't know what her
Stellar Blade
story is, to be
certainly
honest.
isn't
But
pristine,
she talks
and
like
in
she's an
some
old
spots
woman.
it's positively dull, but
Like that,
it's
look at
sharp
that. That
in the
looks
areas that
fucking
matter the
good.
most.
One thing though, the outfits. Oh, fucking hell, bro. The outfits sometimes. Damn. And there's something for everybody. Like, look at that. What is that? Who would wear this? Like, who in the real world would wear
Stellar
something like
Blade's
that?
setting is a familiar one.
But yeah,
The Earth is a
anyway.
post-apocalyptic wasteland, and humans have fled to a colony in space. You play as Eve, a member of the 7th Airborne Squad,
Sailor
who was
Moon.
sent to the surface to eliminate the threat of the Natiba, horrific monsters that laid claim to Earth once the humans fled. What follows is a predictable tale that sees Eve linking up with the last remnants of human civilization and
Yep.
collecting 4 hypercores guarded by 4 big bosses, each of
Basically
which comes
near
with new
shit.
revelations that answer the questions of what happened to the Earth, why the humans fled to space, what created the Natibas, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
None of the reveals were particularly surprising, and while
No.
the back half of the story is a little bit more interesting once all the
Wait, did he finish the game already?
cards are laid out on the table, any emotional moments fell flat for me because of a near complete lack of character building in the front half.
Yeah.
And this is really the biggest issue with Stellar Blade's story. Its characters lack any kind of personality, charm, charisma, or anything that could have endeared me towards them in any sort of way.
Okay.
After
Yeah, like so far, like 10 hours or so in the game, I have no idea what their personality is, what they're like. Like Lily is just acts like a brat sometimes towards Adam, but that's about it. And they bicker. Yeah, that's about
30
it. For
hours,
the
I can
rest,
barely tell you anything noteworthy about Eve outside of the fact that she's fiercely dedicated to her mission,
yeah.
she's very close with her fellow 7th Airborne Squad mate Taki, and she doesn't like getting wet.
I have not seen that outfit yet. Nor have I seen that. Truth. That's a
Try to
good
avoid
look.
getting wet.
We're never really given any sort of
I just
insight
got
as to who
spoiled
she
there.
is as a character.
Spoiler
She's got no sense of
alert.
humor, and her interactions with her companions Adam and Lily are incredibly shallow.
Yeah.
Those two don't fare much better either. Despite the fact that they act like they share a strong bond, it never feels
But-
believable because you never really see that bond being formed.
Yeah.
Without any of that, it was hard to become invested in Eve, her mission, or Stellar Blade's world in general.
It's just a game you go in and you kill monsters, man. Yeah, just skip the story if it bothers you. But it's still worth the fucking play. Definitely. Sharp edge of the sword.
Thankfully, the most important part of an action game is the action
The
itself.
action,
And
yep.
Stellar Blade checks pretty much all the boxes when it comes to its combat. It's smoothly animated, challenging,
One thing about the combat is when you're attacking multiple enemies, you can't like slash left, slash right, slash behind, slash left again, slash right. She always stays in the same direction. Or maybe that's like an option that I haven't turned off. Yeah, that's one
satisfying,
thing I would
has a
say
healthy
about the
amount of enemy
action.
variety, and while
The
there's
rest
a lot of
is,
depth, it never became overwhelming in what it demanded of me.
It's pretty
You
good.
could say that Stellar Blade's combat is derivative, but at the very least, it's derived
Oh yes, Sekiro. The best! The best! Look at this parry.
but at the very least, it's derived from one of the best in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Like Sekiro, it is very defense-driven. Enemies are prone to launching into long, uninterruptible combos, and the only way to properly deal with them is to precisely press the block
If only it was exactly like Sekiro, then this game would have been... Oh my lord.
button just before their attacks land
Well,
to
maybe
parry
it will
each
be,
attack
like-
one after the other. Every parry you land takes
I'm
away a
not-
point from
I
the
have
enemy's
fought
balance,
this enemy, though.
and once their balance is broken,
She has
they're able
like 2 movesets or something. I wish they were stronger, like the Valkyries in the God of War. That would have been cool. Because so far I've only fought 2 of these, and do they have a different moveset? I don't
to
think they
land a
do.
hugely damaging blow that will kill most standard enemies outright and deal massive damage to bosses. Unparryable attacks are clearly
Oh
telegraphed
my god, I'm getting spoiled here.
opponent to their backside, and then a purple flash is the sign
Yeah,
of an
visceral
attack that can be
attacks.
repulsed, which forces you to hold back and press the dodge
This
button
is cool.
at just
And then you can start shooting the weak spot.
the right time to deflect and expose the enemy's weak point.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
Once again, all of this is very similar to Sekiro's style of telegraphing unblockable moves that either must be jumped over, be Kiri countered, or avoided at all costs, and it works just as well here. Developer Shift Up smartly didn't settle for just straight up copying Sekiro's combat either. It adds its own twists in the form of beta skills, which are a series of 4 special attacks
Which I fucking love. That was one thing I was like dreaming about when playing Sekiro. What if I had like crazy flashy ass skills? And Stellar Blade gives you that shit. Like, and not just these 4, they give you way more.
that Eve can use for specific purposes, including a wide sweeping attack that hits multiple enemies, a triple stab attack that does massive single target damage,
Yep.
a shockwave type move that hits enemies at a
Etsuga
distance, and a shield breaker that deals
Tensho.
extra damage to an enemy's armor. These attacks can be used by spending beta energy, which is gained by
Belgium
landing hits
energy.
and parrying strikes. So you're well incentivized to engage with the enemy as opposed to just running away and sneaking in a hit when you can.
Yeah, this was a cool fight. Yeah.
Speaking of those enemies, one of the areas in which Stellar Blade particularly excels
Forced.
is its enemy variety and design. There are more than 48 different types of Naytiba to fight against, and while some of them are only slight variations of each other with different weapons, at least those different weapons have their own combos and techniques that you need to learn in order to properly deal with them.
Yeah.
Boss fights are great too, with intense battles against huge and aggressive monsters that always had me on the edge of my seat. Combat felt fresh all throughout the
I feel like the boss fights so far, they haven't really captured me with the whole music and all that. I wish the music was a bit more intense, but again,
30
maybe
hours
they'll
took me to
come
beat
in
it.
future battles.
Partially because of the aforementioned enemy variety,
What
but
the
also because
fuck?
at just about
I never use those fucking bombs. Dude, you can just knock down a boss? Now, I tried to use them, but once the fight starts, I'm like, what are bombs, right?
every major chapter in the campaign, I would get a new tool or mechanic that changed up how I approach certain encounters. There's a wrist-mounted drone that could fire.
Did you see that? That was really good. That was really good. He barely missed
I would
it.
get a new tool
Look
or
at that.
mechanic that changed up how I approach certain encounters.
That's really
There's a
nice.
wrist-mounted drone that could fire a bunch of different ammo types from a distance, along with new mechanics like burst skills that
The drone is pretty cool. Not gonna lie. It has some
yet another
cool
layer of
mechanics
resource
to it.
management and became critical for tough fights.
Oh yes. Oh
Burst
yeah.
skills are similar to beta skills in that they are
And you can
special
change
attacks
the hair
that require
color.
energy to use, but they are more powerful and typically result in an enemy being slumped on the ground. To balance that added strength, burst energy is much harder to build, requiring you to either perfectly dodge enemy attacks, successfully use a blink or repulse, or
Yeah, if you do your parries and dodges perfectly, your burst energy just goes up like crazy. And you don't only use your burst for like burst skills. There's like combos as well that you can use, like extend your combos attacks with these with the burst energy.
by spending a
Which
point
are
of your
pretty
beta
fucking
energy to
cool.
use a beta chain, which essentially exchanges the two resources. It was fun to make on-the-fly decisions about whether to spend 2 points of beta energy on a less powerful beta skill, or spend a single point to gain a point of burst energy and then use a much stronger attack later. It's considerations like these that really make some of the tougher bosses in Stellar Blade sing. Not to mention the fact that the burst
Just
skills
fucking
themselves
spam
just
your
look
burst
cool as all hell.
skills. Yeah, this shit. And then, oof, fucking hell, man, that is so
This
good.
excellent action is the exceptional soundtrack, which features everything from blood-pumping bangers during
That
boss
shit
battles,
is fucking satisfying.
everything from exceptional sound.
Where
Cherry
is
on
it? Where is it?
tops just look cool as all hell.
Perfect parry, dash through, go back, and then
The cherry on top of all this excellent action
Oh.
is the exceptional soundtrack, which features everything from blood-pumping bangers during boss battles,
that's good.
to beautiful, ear-tingling melodies while exploring its desolate world.
The game looks good though. That's a
When you're not
fact.
hacking away at Stellar Blade's horrific-looking Neytima monstrosities, you'll be doing some light RPG activities like exploring Zion,
Yeah.
mankind's last bastion of civilization,
This is basically your
restocking at
town.
shops, changing your hair, picking up quick and light requests from a bulletin board, or taking on meteor side quests from NPCs.
Yeah.
True to everything else in Stellar Blade, none of these tasks were particularly interesting from a storytelling perspective, save for one involving a man and his love for a broken-down singing android.
What? Is that so?
They
Yeah,
do
this
occasionally
conversation
culminate
was
in a
awkward.
big round 2 fight against a stronger version of a boss I had previously fought, but outside those few moments, I quickly found myself tired of the side quest grind. First off, many of these side quests have you returning to old levels in order to reach a specific spot to either pick up some sort of note or item to deliver back to the quest giver. While this is mostly fine in the more open-ended zones where there's a map and numerous fast travel
It's a bit
points
like
to
Ragnarok,
make
right?
travel much less of a chore, it is an absolute pain when it comes to the linear levels where you have nothing to guide you but a blip on your compass. Most of the time,
Okay.
virtually nothing has changed in these levels either, so it's literally just retracing your steps through the same level, minus any of the surprises you might have encountered on your first time through, all to collect a single item that you weren't able to pick up before. What makes this worse is that very rarely did I ever feel the effort was worth the trip. Most of the time, the rewards are just gold and EXP. EXP is great, as level ups give you skill points to explore more of Stellar Blade's well-developed skill trees. But later on, which was when the side quest fatigue started to settle in, skill points were less exciting because the remaining upgrades were either skills I had passed on because I didn't really feel like I needed them, or they felt like very incremental stat increases on moves I didn't use very often, or were just extremely situational upgrades. Then there's gold, which for the most part is a useless currency in the latter half of the campaign. It's used
I mean,
pretty
they
much
allow you to
exclusively
play
for
the
refilling consumables
way you
or
want,
getting more
what
crafting
you
components,
have
which I
available.
practically never had to do because you find so many of all of those things just by opening treasure chests and breaking boxes. Thankfully,
everybody
exploration
breaks
fares much
boxes and
better. The two
opens
open zones of Stellar Blade
and
aren't
chests,
enormous,
right?
but they are densely packed with hidden collectibles and fun enemy encounters that always made me want to thoroughly explore as much as possible
fuck?
before making a break for the objective marker. There are collectible cans that can be returned to your base for a variety of rewards.
This is weird. Oh, what the fuck is
More
this?
parts that increase your max health and energy, robot loot pinatas that contain all sorts of goodies, exoskeletons
Crawlers.
that greatly affect your stats and can affect your approach to combat, and of course 30 or so outfits that you can use to
30.
change Eve's appearance. There is an impressive variety among those costumes. So for every skimpy
Jesus
swimsuit or
Christ.
super tiny miniskirt, there's
The
also
Korean
a classic
way.
dress or
That's what I'm
stylish
wearing.
outfit that makes Eve look like, as my wife puts it, an insta-baddie. I always look forward to finding a new skin,
What?
and truthfully, it's very satisfying to have another big action game outside of Insomniac's Spider-Man series
I'm
that
jealous. I
features
don't
really
have a wife.
high-quality unlockable cosmetics that you don't have to purchase with real money microtransactions.
Not.
One other feather in Stellar Blade's cap is that it mixes up its gameplay fairly well.
Yeah, the forced
Occasionally,
gun
you'll have
use.
to go deep underground into a creepy lab where your scanner and sword don't work, turning it into a genuinely spooky survival horror style game. There are also some cool Uncharted-like action sequences, as well as a good mix of linear and non-linear level design.
Yeah.
Not all of these breaks from combat hit,
This
and
is
the
shit.
platforming
I
heavy
hate the
sections are
jumping
particularly
in this
annoying
game.
whenever they come up, but they nonetheless do a good job of relieving the monotony that would come from just going fight
He
to fight
seems
with
to have
nothing in
pretty good
between.
control
After
over the
beating Stellar
jumping.
Blade, it's
I
also
would
worth
struggle.
mentioning that there's no New Game Plus at launch. It will be coming down the line as free DLC, but
Okay.
right out of the gate, there's not much waiting for you at the end beyond a hard mode that doesn't really seem to change much outside of the enemies hitting you harder. This is especially frustrating because once you beat the game,
fuck
your
is
save
this?
file with all of your unlockables, costumes, and other collectibles is basically stuck at the final boss fight. You can't take those costumes over with you to a new game, forcing you to do an entirely fresh playthrough outside of one new costume that you get for beating the game, and you can't even skip cutscenes on your subsequent playthroughs.
Oh, that sucks. So it didn't really.
Stellar Blade stands out as a
Put a lot of
gorgeous
effort in
and
the
well-crafted
end.
action game with very impressive strengths and very clear weaknesses. Both its story and characters lack substance, and some of its RPG elements are poorly implemented, like dull side quests that very often force you to retrace your steps through previous levels, with very
And the
little done to make
conversations
return
in these
trip
side
feel
quests
unique
are
or
pretty
rewarding.
boring as well.
But its action picks up most of that slack thanks to the rock-solid fundamentals of its
Yes.
Sekiro-inspired combat system,
Yep.
a deep well of
You wanna play? Well, you don't play Stellar Blade for story. You play Stellar Blade for action combat. That's it. And maybe some eye candy,
hideous
you know.
monstrosities to sharpen your sword
Other
against,
than that-
and plenty of hidden goodies that do a great job of incentivizing exploration all throughout.
The 7? Yeah, I would agree with that. 7, a solid 7.5. Yeah, I would agree with that. Because the first God of War, I thought was amazing. Like the storytelling in that game. I wish they had a bit more of that in Stellar Blade. Yeah, 7, pretty solid. I would agree with that.
For more Stellar Blade, check out the first minutes of the game, along with our guide video covering the best skills to get first, and
Yeah.
our essential combat tips.
So yeah, would I recommend this game? Like I said, if you don't really care about story, fucking play this game. If you like action games, like the Bloodborne, it's not really that fast, but it has that feeling to it, like Sekiro as well. Then definitely play it. Definitely play it. Alright.